stories being told.
Hey, welcome back to the Jesus Magnet podcast. I'm Joel, we got Laura here, and we're joined today with John Bruce. How you doing, John?
Awesome. Hallelujah.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us on the Jesus Magnet podcast. You were recommended by an awesome guy called Speedy, who's been on our podcast before.
Yep.
And so we're really keen to hear what you've got to say. If anybody's following where we are, we're in Kaikoura. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
And that's in New Zealand, sort of the northeast coast of New Zealand. And we are in, what's this church called? Vineyard Church.
Yeah.
And it's such a homely church. Yeah. We rocked up here. It's got a roaring fire right now. And very, very cool to be here. Thank you, John. So John, we'll jump straight into it. Yeah. But would you like to just start wherever your testimony starts? We'll jump in, we'll ask questions and get you to expand on certain areas. But The platform's really yours and your testimony. Let's hear it.
Thanks, Joel. Well, I guess for me, it started at the beginning of my life. I was born 1972 in South Auckland, and at birth I was placed into the welfare system, and
would you be able to explain the welfare system just for those that are overseas or something like that?
Yeah, okay. So it's a sort of a government-run system for children to be placed that don't have sort of parents or family or... and I think back in that era, it was kind of frowned upon for mothers to have children without a husband or without a... And so a lot of mothers were sort of forced to put their children into welfare, and so it was hidden. So the family wasn't born into shame and stuff like that. And so that system sort of took the child on and then sort of put it through various places to grow up.
Okay. Did you have siblings that went through that, or was it just you?
No, just me, yeah.
Yep.
So that started a whole raft of stuff in my life, and just went to a lot of various, like the housing and places where you're placed, they shift and change all the time, so you're never at one sort of place for long.
Yeah.
And then you get put in places that are sort of housed a lot more, so you're like in a borstal or like a boarding boys' home or some sort of...
Yep.
So quite a few of you are sort of bunking and living together.
So how many at a time would all be together?
Probably the biggest one I was at was it's about 45 of us.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then as I sort of got older, I got placed into some like family homes, and they were some of them were run by like Christian sort of organisations.
Yeah.
And some of them were kind of some of the things that happened were pretty traumatic. And so from that point, I guess I started being instilled with like a anger or a hate towards people, but not just people, towards religion.
Yeah.
Because these people represented what religion was.
Yeah.
And so for me, I was, probably between the age of 5 to 8, and so I was trying to understand the God they kept trying to push on me, but I was trying to understand the stuff they were doing with it. So I couldn't really kind of figure it out. So I ended up just being a street kid, going on the streets, and back then the welfare sort of was broken a bit. You could fall between the cracks quite easy, and when I became a street kid, I started drinking meths when I was 9, and so that was in a family home situation. I just wanted to be numb. I just wanted the hurt to go away.
Yeah.
Drinking meths as in
the spirits, yeah.
The purple bottle.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
How did you drink that? That is...
Well, I got told by friends to tip it through bread and mix it with raro, but it took so long to go through the bread, I just mixed it with the raro. And
Seriously?
yeah.
So what did that do? I mean, that's got poison.
Yeah, man, it had some side effects, but it had the best effect, which made me numb, where I didn't feel stuff.
Wow.
As I grew, sort of went into street kids, sort of, I sniffed a lot of solvents and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I guess I slipped through the cracks of being able to process what had happened and what people were about, what religion was about. And as I grew up with more hate and anger because that was my survival strength. And and on top of that, just numb. So, you know, being numb was my happy place. You know, I put that before anything. And,
Were you numb only when the spirits was going through your body, the methylated spirits was going through your body?
Yeah.
Or did it, like, have a long-term effects, any of this going through your body?
No.
Like damage?
No, it just wore off and I had to have more. As soon as it wore off, yeah.
I've never met somebody that's drank methylated... Actually, I lie. I have met one person that drank methylated spirits when I was 6 years old.
Yeah.
I've never even thought of this guy until right now. And he was totally blind.
Yeah.
And I remember asking my parents, how did he get blind? And they said, he tried to kill himself by drinking methylated spirits and went blind from it.
Yeah.
But I suppose if it's in bread and diluted a little bit, it would just be damaging for a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So as I grew, you know, I just progressed with what I was finding and taking. I was real transient, travelling around New Zealand. I had no belonging or a place anywhere. So, but I had a real narrative of not belonging, rejection, you know, and a fear of people, fear of what they did and what they can do, you know. So,
so were you just living on the streets at this time?
Yeah.
And how old were you?
9.
9.
You were 9 and you were
Wow.
on the streets.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So did you know where your parents were or anything like that?
No.
You had no idea. Do you know who they are now?
No. I've tracked down my natural father. He died when I was 3. So
Really?
but I've never been able to find my mother. No.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they probably thinking that when she got told to put me in welfare, that her mum would have sent her to Australia.
Oh, okay.
To get her away from the guy that sort of got her pregnant. He was he was a bit like the guy off Grease on the motorbike with the swirled hair, like a teddy boy, naughty guy, come out of jail and got my mother pregnant, and he was quite a bit older
Okay.
than her. So in that sort of era, it would have been
Big no-no.
yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
So and then you know I got put back into a boys' home place, and that's sort of when institutional stuff started. I sort of just grew through institutions, from boys' homes to youth prisons to corrective training to adult prison. You know, and
John, can I ask you about your last name?
yeah,
Is that your dad's?
yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
when did you always know that was your last name? You grew up with Bruce as your last name?
No. So I changed that when I found my dad.
Okay.
Yeah. So
What had you grown up with?
Justice West.
Justice West.
Yeah.
Wow.
So my father's name's John Bruce. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I took that on because it had meaning to me, like
Yeah.
at least some sort of sense of something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the more I went through the system of institutions, I sort of it was a way of living then, you know. But number one stayed just being numb, You know, that was my first and foremost all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, as I come out of prison when I was 22, and
You came out of prison. When did you go into prison?
I spent a lot of my life just in and out.
Really?
Pretty much the whole time, yeah.
Okay.
So
Right from
22,
17, was it, when you could go in?
Yeah. 16, I was at Waikiri Youth.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, and something in me said, you're worth more than this. I was sick of hearing the guards and the people saying, you'll be back, we'll see you soon.
You wanted to prove them wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That can almost be a self-fulfilling prophecy, can't it?
yeah,
Because you're saying, yeah, I'll see you soon, and
yeah,
you sort of, you know, under the layers, plan to be there again if you're going in and out. So, yeah, but you had this voice going, no, you're worth more than this.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so I started working. I started as a brush hand painting with a friend, and I started earning money and started sort of thinking, man, hey, this is all right. I can sort of live. And unfortunately, no one really taught me the basics of saving and finance and stuff. So it just bought me a lot more stuff to be numb with, you know.
Yeah, true.
But that was, I think, pretty much most of my working life until 4 years ago. I was like I was pretty much functioning, but wrecking everything that I was doing. Like, I'd build a career, it would fall over. I'd build a business, it would fall over. It just kept train wrecking at the end, and that was just through addiction, you know. But that addicted to being numb, just didn't deal with any of the stuff.
Did you use something else other than methylated spirits when you got older?
Yeah, I sort of transgressed through from meth to solvents, sniffing to... I had a flat in Nelson when I was 17, and I rented it off the Lost Breed, like a sort of a motorbike gang in that time.
Okay.
And it was pretty rough sort of a place, but I met a guy covered in tattoos sitting on the side of the path, and I said, come and live with me, and he just got out of jail, and he was a lot older, and he taught me all about naturals like datura and cactus and all these natural things you can just pick off a tree and cook them up. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, and so
You can
that
eat
was
cactus.
dangerous. Pardon?
You can eat cactus.
You know, you cook it
Oh, you
down.
cook it?
Yeah,
Oh.
so San Pedro cactus stuff, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So this creates like almost like a drug?
Yeah, absolutely. The datura is really powerful hallucinogen. Like
Wow.
The flowers, yeah.
I did not know
Oh,
that.
I was thinking of food to eat. Sorry.
So
No.
Laura's a real health freak. So
Okay.
I'm like, oh.
Yeah, yeah. So I drank that, and that was really dangerous because all of a sudden I had been numb on tap of plants, but they were really good bad. Like you'd lose your vision for 3-4 days
seriously,
Oh, wow.
off datura and that. Yeah,
wow.
yeah. Because I'd take a lot of it. I'd take it in the morning and night, and just constantly. And so I took that till I got arrested by the police for sitting on a seat, trying to sit on a park bench on the main road in Nelson. I was just hallucinating. So
Oh, wow.
I got
Sorry,
arrested.
that's probably quite a funny image.
Yeah, and when I got arrested, I had other drugs on me, and then they found
True,
them.
yeah.
And so I got sent to corrective training up in
Yeah.
Turangi,
Okay.
and that was sort of the end of that caper. But then you just transgressed to alcohol, cannabis, and then moved into LSD and speed, and then into meth and.
So did you find, since you had grown up with this, essentially trying to numb yourself always, you're trying to find a fix, you're trying to find something that satisfies, you're trying to find something to work towards to gain in you, and you're using drugs, you're using plants, you're using alcohol,
Yeah.
methylated spirits, and every time afterwards, did you find yourself just still almost abandoned? Like,
Yeah, really lonely. Still always had the rejection and not belonging. And it didn't matter if I was around associates, gang members, people that I sort of got close to. I was still really lonely. I was still not belonging to anything. And so that was the main purpose of my being, was to be numb, to forget, to not feel. I think to a lot of people it was a surprise because I was a real heavy drinker of spirits and other stuff, and I was really happy all the time. I was never angry or violent, but when I didn't have any of that stuff, I was a horrible person because all the hate was there and all the just the feelings of all the hurt, I guess.
yeah.
So as long as I was numb, I was really happy and cool to be around. And I think I grew up just trying to buy people or trying to... you grow up with a so low self-worth that you just don't belong there. So you got to do the extra mile to try and fit in or be part of or belong. And, and that gets tiring. I grew up working like that.
It's an interesting concept there, doesn't it? When you use money to get anything, you're exchanging something you have for a value that you want. So you're using money to exchange and with other people, with drugs and things like that. But you're getting the value of that friendship or the value of that purpose with that exchange of currency. So and that makes sense that that's how your mind ticked, because there wasn't ever that, let's say, family value that was a given that lots of us had grown up with. You had always had that exchange.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, and so even into career and working, you still carry that you're not worthy. You shouldn't even have this job. So you work harder and longer and say yes to everything because you got to prove your worth.
Yeah.
And it's cool. You get promoted and you excel within your job by that. But at the end of the day, the narrative's still there. You're still not worthy of it. You're still... and it seemed to be like whenever I thought life couldn't get any better than this, I'll train wreck it within 3 weeks of that thought.
Oh, really?
And that's the narrative of you don't deserve it, you're not worth this. And so generally I'll just...
actually sounds really demonic. Like it was an entity surrounding your life, John, and going, any time that you started to gain traction, it's going, you don't deserve this, you shouldn't be here, and creating that prophecy in your mind, just that seed, that's enough. And then when things don't go to plan, or more or less when things go to plan in your mind, that cause of, and it's going to plan as a train wreck because that's what you have been hearing in your mind. Where if it was going not to plan, that would be to continue to succeed. And so you were expecting that each time?
And then when you were hit rock bottom, you'd wrecked everything. It was like a place of, well, this is what you deserve, this is where you're at. But then something, would ignite, like, man, get up and do it again. And so the amount of times I've built stuff up and lost the whole lot and built up again and lost it, that gets tiring.
It must take a lot of courage and resilience though to keep getting up, it'd be very tempting just to kind of sit there. But I think from growing up, I think that's the difference. I never grew up in the victim sort of seat, or poor me, why I grew up in the anger seat. I'm going to pay you back, and how you think, you can do this to me, I'll be back. So I grew up with a fight, not a this isn't fair, it shouldn't happen to me. It's probably served you quite well then. Fight back sort of thing.
I think there's a lot of things in the background that were going on that I've always been if I seen people getting bullied, or if I seen people getting stood over, or always for the weaker person, or man, I'd fly and just stop it, and then some of the things I was around and associated with that didn't go down too well, because that's part of culture and life.
Yeah.
So it was quite conflicting, but it didn't stop. It was real strong. I grew up with a real equality mind, fairness of that people should all be treated the same,
Yeah.
Yep.
So that got me in a fair bit of trouble at times, but I never backed down from it. If I got disciplined or beaten as a kid, I'd still stand strong to. You can't treat that person like that. You got to treat them all like this, and so I grew up with that all along. That there's been a love for people, and probably the weaker people.
Yeah.
Always back the underdog, I guess.
Yeah.
So I started. I ended up going to study, and I got a job as a youth worker for the Ministry of Ed, and
Okay.
I was blown away. I had a really long sort of criminal record by then, but they gave me a shot, and within 3 years I was the residential manager of this residential school. Yeah, so that was really cool. But again, by that time, things started going on that, this is too good to be,
And through all this, you haven't found Christ at this point.
No,
This is just you and your own strength.
Yeah.
But God obviously gave you this heart to help people the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was still in real heavy addiction, but I was I was functioning. I looked the part. I had the suit, and it looked clean and just covered in tattoos, and but I did my job. But at night, I was rolling around with gangs doing other stuff that is totally opposite to what I'm teaching these youth and stuff.
True.
So it was almost like Jekyll and Hyde, like during the day I'm there, at night I'm doing this. There was a big sort of uprising at that place because some of the staff had been there for like 18 years, and I was there for 3 years, and I was their boss, and they didn't feel that was right. So it was a real heavily dominated female sort of workforce in that area, and so I couldn't really just stand around corners and spread rumours and gossip and stuff like that, and so it was too hard to keep battling against it.
Yeah.
So they paid me out, and straight away I got another job at another residential school in East Auckland, and so pretty much stayed in that job, and then that school got shut down for historical abuse claims and stuff.
Oh, wow.
And so the whole place got shut down, and
Oh, wow.
and so I did a bit of work with youth justice, and then I became a chef.
Then you became a chef.
Yeah, because man, it was getting real high risk job, especially youth justice. They could chuck their dinner and plates and chairs and attack you, and
Wow.
you only had to look at them wrong, and they'd put in a complaint to the Youth for Law.
Oh, wow.
So you're constantly being pulled up for nothing really, while you're getting assaulted daily. So
Yeah, wow.
it wasn't me. Yeah. No, and so I became a chef, and but because I've been chefing, I've been 4 times. I've been head chef in jail, so I quite like cooking.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So you built up a skill while you were there.
Yeah.
It's awesome how a God sort of uses anything, eh?
Yeah.
Real cool.
I guess about that time I got put on, I accumulated quite a few drink driving charges.
Yep.
all in the space. I think I accumulated 4 in 6 months. Went through a bad, and so I got put on this island, Rotorua Island, run by the Salvation Army. It's out of Auckland.
Rotorua Island.
Rotorua Island. Yeah, they've sold it now. It was
Wow.
yeah, it's about an hour and a half.
You got put on an island
Auckland.
so you wouldn't.
Yes, I couldn't drink. No more drinking for John.
Oh my gosh. That's like Alcatraz, eh?
Yeah, it was, yeah. Yeah, and so, but the guy I went over there with, we had lots of cannabis and stuff, so I just carried on smoking that on this island until I got tested and got kicked off, so that didn't work out too well.
Yeah.
So I stayed out at Parakai because I had to wait for 6 months and then go back to the rehab, but do it at Mount Eden in Auckland.
Oh, okay.
And that's when something amazing happened. I was having a party in Parakai with this guy, and my house was at the front, my car was at the front of the driveway, and there were a lot of people. And the house was full, but because of my height, I could look over the heads of people. And I got a glimpse of this lady walking out the door, and I didn't know her or anything. And I just got this feeling, you got to follow her. And I just got out the front door, pushing through one, and I seen a green car sort of flash past. And man, I stopped the music, told everyone, you got to move your cars out. I got to get my car out. And this guy whose house it was going, what are you doing? You're crazy. What are you up to? Like, and it took a while because everyone was pretty drunk. I've been drinking heaps, and he's like, you can't drive your car. You can't. Wow, man. By the time I got everyone out, I was driving around this little town, Parakai, and he hopped in the car with me, and he was like, well, this is nuts, man, like, with a lot more swearing in it. But I had to look for this, I don't know. Anyway, the last, we were going home, and there was a driveway to the Parakai Tavern, and I went in there, and there was a bamboo, like a hedge, and on the other side of it was like the Parakai hot pools. But under that hedge was this green car. And man, I said, and we drove up.
So you're following this green car because you thought this lady was in it?
Yeah, but I didn't follow it. I lost it. I don't know where it was. It was
Right.
the last place I checked. And we rocked up to it, and she put cardboard around her exhaust and a hose through her back door to a Coke bottle to her mouth with a jacket over her head. And the car was all locked, and so I just kicked her window in and dragged her out, and I think she was already like, she was just all like not there. But with the open palm, I was smacking her in the middle of her back, and she threw up and sort of looked around and coughed and then attacked me. And
Wow.
So you just saved her life?
Yeah, but and the guy, my flatmate who was in the car, he was just speechless. He just stood there like, what?
So I'll just explain for anybody listening on the podcast now. You can people commit suicide by blocking the exhaust of their car.
Run the hose.
And they ran the hose back into the car.
Yeah.
Okay, and that, obviously
Breathing
you
in
can't
exhaust.
breathe in that, and that's slowly you just pass out, go to sleep and die.
Yeah.
Man, that's amazing.
Yeah, and so by the time I found the car, it probably took half an hour for everyone to move their cars out of the driveway. And then for us to drive all around Parakai, and that was the last place we looked. So it was probably
Man.
like 45 minutes since I've seen her.
So you got all these drunk people to drunkly move their cars so you
Abusing,
could
yeah.
drink drive
Yeah.
to find this person that you had no idea was going to try and kill themselves
Yeah.
out of just a feeling, just a highlight that happened in the middle of this party.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you broke the window
yeah.
and then she attacked you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she'd come back to, yeah. But, I'd never met her, never talked to her, nothing. And so he's sort of like my flatmate, I was just staying with him. But he that changed stuff for him as well, because
Wow.
he was like, man, what just happened? Like,
Yeah.
Because the whole time everyone was abusing me, like,
Yeah.
what a nutcase, what are you up to? But man, when that happened, everyone was just like, oh.
Wow. And you didn't know what was prompting you, and
No, I just
It was
thought,
just-
you gotta follow that person.
wow.
That is amazing.
Yeah. And so that stopped me as well. That really made me think,
How did...
what the heck was that voice? What
Yeah.
was that about?
Yeah. Oh, I just got like the goosebumps.
Yeah, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was really amazing. Yeah, I'll never forget that. And she came to see me about 3 weeks later. Yeah, her name was Angel, and she had custody back of her kids, and so she lost custody of her kids, and
So that's why-
she did that.
Wow.
So she had custody again, and gave me a big hug, and it was really amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you still in touch with her? No? No. Well, Angel, if you're listening, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was, yeah. And so, I don't know, I think, because while I was on that island, where I got kicked off, just before it was Salvation Army, and so it was all quite Christian-based, and
Yeah.
and I thought, man, I want to be like you guys. And they said,
It's-
wow, do you believe in Jesus? And I was like, forget it,
Yeah.
man, it's all good.
It's interesting you wanted to be like them, but you
Yeah.
had grown up in this the welfare system, but it had the umbrella of church around it, and you had this negative outlook on, well, if you represent a good God that loves everyone, and you treat me like this, that you had this negative outlook on, I suppose, religion as a whole. And then when you're an adult, you must have met these people on this island, and they must have represented God in a good way.
Yeah.
Did they?
Yeah, absolutely. You could
So
see
it
it.
changed that.
Yeah, you could see those just beautiful people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we had a dress-up party there, and obviously on this island you don't have a costume shop, and so
True. Flex bushes.
hard to believe this looking at me now, but I used to have like long hair and long black.
Okay.
It was like ringlety. Like,
Luscious locks.
yeah. And so I found a sheet and a rope and some barbed wire from the farm, and man, I dropped the party. Yeah, I walked in with this barbed wire on my head and blood there, and I had like a moustache and a goatee and that long hair, and it stopped the party. Yeah, they weren't that impressed, to be honest. But
You would have thought it was a great idea as
yeah,
well.
I thought, man, this is really like
Yeah.
using what I had available. But I guess something was already happening, or something was. But I believe something's been happening all along, because I've always had this love for the weaker, or people that have been downtrodden or been treated unfairly.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so I had to finish this rehab and go back to, and I finished it, and but it didn't stop my addiction or anything like that. I didn't really deal with any of the things that were underlying, and so I just carried on.
How long was your rehab journey? Was it 6 months or something?
Yeah, when I went back, it was 6 months. I
Yeah.
think I did about 2 months on the island. Before I got kicked off. I carried on. I've had some catering businesses and painting businesses, and but everything kept falling over. I've tried to have. I've had 3 marriages, and I think I don't know. I guess with the trauma and how I grew up, I wasn't emotionally ready. I wanted to belong somewhere. I wanted to have a family, but I couldn't deal with them touching me, or I couldn't deal with talking emotional stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
So that was real hard. I tried to buy my way through 3 marriages and trying to just give them what they wanted materially and nothing else, and it didn't work. For the sexual side of it, I couldn't do it. So, I had to make out I was like a swinger, and that's what I liked when it wasn't. But I tried to think in my head it made sense if I got that part met and I do this part, then everything will be happy. But it didn't work. It didn't work. And 3 times I tried it and it didn't work. So, that's always been, I think, part of the narrative of rejection and part of not belonging, and the stuff about not being touched. So that's just part of the trauma, I think, of what happened as a young kid. But so I've got some children there that I wasn't really a big part of their life because it kept falling over, and I think finding it hard to be consistent with a person through my life, because I've never grown up. I've just grown up with random people non-stop.
Yeah, true.
So I've never had a consistent relation with someone for a long time or over life.
Yeah.
So to be constantly in touch with the same person, I really struggle with it.
Yeah.
I ended up back in prison, just through addictions and
Also caught with drugs and...
my release conditions were that I did a rehab. So I went to a place called Odyssey after I got let out, and their big part of their the way they operate is they run on these encounters, they're called, and you got to write like telltale notes on everyone in the house, and you got to write so many per week, and you move up levels, and level 4 is like the highest, and 1 is when you come in. But how I grew up, that went against everything I've always ever done, telling on people so I just couldn't do it. And for 2 months, they gave me a lot of disciplinary stuff.
So what did all the levels change your responsibilities, what you're allowed to do?
Yep. So the more levels you went up, the more you sort of run the house, and and some of it it taught you like patience. So if I wanted something, I'd have to ask level 2. Level 2 would have to ask level 3, level 4.
Oh, wow.
And then it would have to feed back down. So sometimes if I wanted to use the phone, it would take 2 days to get an answer.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah,
Gosh.
so nothing just straight away. So that helped the instant gratification sort of thing. But
'Cause that's huge these days, as we grow up in a world where everything's just right now.
Absolutely.
And that delayed gratification is actually really healthy to practice, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, I think not only just in rehab, but in life in general, that's a really healthy mindset to have, is a bit of delayed gratification.
Yeah.
We're too instant these days.
Yeah.
Instant noodles, instant television, everything.
Yep. Yep. So I got kicked out of there because I wouldn't write these notes, and I ended up in a supported accommodation through Salvation Army, I probably got real bad about there with all my drinking and intravenous use, and I was taking anything and everything, and life had pretty much, I was on $7 a week and just wanted to be numb all the time. So to be in that state on $7 a week, it's pretty hard. So I had to do all sorts of stuff. But
what do you mean you're on $7 a week? Was that an allowance?
Yeah, that's what you got left.
Is it like $1 a day?
Pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you got left over whatever money, but because I had student loans and child support and stuff like that, all gets taken out, and so that's what I was left with, and I guess that's a man by the name of Tiaki. He was a staff member at the Salvation Army hostel, come and knocked on my door. And he just said a simple thing of, bro, you want to come to church? And, he's the first person to ask me that, you know, as a...
And how old were you at that point, roughly?
This is just under 4.5 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, how old are you now?
49.
49. Oh, wow, that took a long time for somebody to ask you to come to church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I stepped back. I was pretty... It was like, it almost hit me in the face, like it was... didn't I know how to react? But I said yes, you know. And I guess inside, it spoke for me. I was dying, you know. I was absolutely dying. The stuff, I was getting people to spit their medication out, and I'd just put it in a syringe and shoot in my arm, and that stuff was getting really, like, unhygienic, like really
Yeah,
dirty
wow.
stuff. To anything. So I went to church with this guy, and and that day it was a church called Harmony Church, and the pastor up the front said, near the end, he's like, if you want to hand your life over to Jesus, raise your hand. And I was up the back, and I sort of, as my hand went up, I shrunk down. I was embarrassed, you know. I didn't want to admit that I was weak, or that I needed to surrender, or that I needed help. You know. But I did. I put my hand up, and man, wow, that was just under 4.5 years ago, and life now. So I went back to the accommodation, and I didn't really know what I'd done. I sort of knew about Jesus and a God, and I knew about the Noah who parted the ocean.
Yep.
Oh, Noah in the boat and Moses in the ocean.
Moses,
yeah. I sort of knew the basics of stuff.
Basic
but,
stories and all that. Yeah.
I didn't really know what I'd just done or how serious I should. So I started Googling a bit of this stuff. The same guy sort of gave me a Bible.
The guy that invited you to church gave you a Bible.
Yeah. And this guy, you know, from that day on, I decided I wanted to go drug and alcohol free, you know, and and so that was huge. They took a urine test before I stopped, and they thought I was trying to commit suicide because I had so high levels of different stuff. Yeah. And so they were on the point of sort of kicking me out, thinking this isn't the right place. He's going to end up sort of dead here, and we don't want that. So, so it was great news to them that I said, oh, I'm going to stop. But they were a bit worried because I had such high stuff.
Yeah.
And this guy, Tiaki, teamed up with a lady, Julie, and she was a caseworker there. And they're both of faith, and she took me to a supermarket and bought me all these vitamins, and and he took me to the supermarket, bought me heaps of lollies, lollies and smokes, and I got clean.
Wow.
So that was. About 4 years, 4 months clean.
Wow.
And
And that's from
after-
your whole life. You've just always strived after all of that. Anything that made you numb, anything that changed, altered your perspective for the better or for the worse, just neutral, numb. And then that moment of following Christ was the moment you're saying, no, if I'm giving my life to Jesus, It's everything. I'm giving him the drugs. I'm giving him the alcohol. I'm giving him all of it. The numbness.
The coolest, they had sort of a man shed out the back, and I made a cross, quite a big one, and then painted it white and ragged it red and black. And I put that above my bed. And so, for the first 2 months, I just knelt in the morning and the night and praying and convincing myself that I wasn't just talking to myself, but as I did it more and more and more, it became more real. As people walked in my room with drugs and stuff, I just pointed at the cross, and they just said, "Oh, yeah," and just walked out.
No.
So I didn't have to say no. The cross spoke for me. It was really,
Oh, that's
cool.
That's really cool.
yeah. And so I think every 2 weeks it was about like I never felt any amazing, I don't feel angels from the sky or amazing stuff, but every 2 weeks, I don't know, it's like I got a nudge, get rid of your music. 2 weeks later, I stopped swearing. 2 weeks later, I got rid of all my gang sort of clothing and affiliated stuff. 2 weeks later, all the posters off my wall went. And so from all those times, when the swearing went, I haven't sworn, when the music went, I just listened to Bethel, Hillsong, and I found a lot of ASAP Preach and a lot of Christian rappers and stuff that I now pass on to everyone I come across that listen to that sort of genre music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, how will I listen to this? And it's a good way to sort of
Bridge
Yeah.
the gap. Or,
yeah.
That's so
So
cool.
God actually took you in steps
Yeah.
every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Because if He had given you everything at once that needed to change, that would be too much, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So in those steps of 2 weeks at a time made the transition easier to let go.
Yeah, just a bit at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then cigarettes. I didn't last at Harmony Church that long, and I ended up at the Salvation Army. And so there, I found a love for the Salvation Army because of the brokenness that was there and the people that were there, and how they were all being treated. And so that really drew me to that.
Yeah.
So a year later, I got signed in as a soldier for the Salvation Army. And again, I stood outside the church, had like 5 cigarettes, I think, went in and signed the covenant and never had a cigarette or a vape since.
Oh, wow.
And so,
Praise the Lord.
yeah,
Wow.
hallelujah, yeah.
And you don't have you didn't ever have any cravings for those things that you gave up?
No.
Really?
Man.
No.
Because I
instant.
myself have struggled with smoking about, must have been like 5 years ago now. And it held me for a long time. And every couple of months I would stumble and I'd have one.
Yeah.
And then, every couple of weeks I would have one. And then went to about a month, and then that went to about 3 months. And then on that third month when I had one, my body had regenerated its taste and everything.
Yeah.
And I realized it shocked me how gross it was, the habit that I had numbed my senses to.
Yeah.
And I almost needed that last one to stop that craving. It woke me up from what I was doing. But that's awesome that the Lord just totally broke those chains for you
Yeah.
in a moment. That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So now I live a life drug and alcohol free, smoke free. I don't even think about any of them really.
Praise the Lord.
I just love serving the Lord today.
Yeah.
I was going to try and be an officer for the Salvation Army, and they took me through all the processes, and had the last weekend interview where you go to Wellington and it's basically a weekend of just interviews.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty full on psych report and evaluation and full on medical
Yep.
stuff. And then they were like, "Oh, you've had 3 divorces. You can't be an officer." So that was kind of that was pretty hard because it seemed like I was right on track to doing this, and I had it in my head that with that uniform on, I'd just walk the streets and I'd start talking to everyone with this uniform. It'd be like a beacon of God, here I am.
Yeah.
I still, I accepted it. It is what it is, So I started working in the Salvation Army doing Delta, just picking up guys in the community that had anger or addiction issues or whatever, and doing gardening, like taking them around, helping elderly people out or people in the social housing that couldn't afford to sort of clear up the yards. And then that sort of got shut down. I got a job at the Salvation Army Bridge drug and alcohol program. Worked there. While I was working there, I went back up to Wellington and studied chaplain for the Salvation Army chaplaincy, and came back and carried on working at the bridge. And while I was working at the bridge, I really wanted to start a group for men ministry. There's a huge gap of a group for connection and a group of belonging, where people could sort of uplift each other with each other and grow together. And so I was talking to a lady, Nikki. Ralph was the old chaplain at the bridge, and his wife was Nikki, and they worked at the bridge. And I'm trying to come up with a name for this group. What can I call it? And so Nikki, she came up with this avoda. It's Hebrew for work, worship, and service. And I was like,
cool.
Man, that sounds spot on. That's
Yeah.
what I want. I wanted the guys to sort of work together, worship together, connect, but serve the community and sort of feel good all round sort of.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I started this group, and I think there was 4 of us that started, 5, and then it slowly built up, and then I bought shirts for it, and we printed more shirts and then vests for the winter, and the group got bigger and bigger, and then we started feeding the homeless and stuff in town and reaching out into the community. Then I started Friday night avoda, so it was like a dinner, practice the haka, kapa haka and waiata. So that was happening every Friday night with a meeting, sharing food, and then it branched into Saturdays, so they'd come and do gardening work. And we're getting paid for the gardening work, so that sort of generated money for feeding the homeless and their clothing.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, and
Is it like a discipleship sort of vibe that's going around, people coming in and actually learning from each other, and then prayer with each other, worship with each other, and then serving with each other.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so a real strong sense of equality. No one's better than anyone else, and so and I think from a child, I've always dragged that through, and so we come up with this handshake, and it's like never above you, never below you, always beside you.
Yeah, that's cool.
So
That's neat.
that's exactly what it's about. We're uplifting each other.
Yeah.
Not leaving anyone behind. So as we grow, we all grow.
Yeah.
And so that grew quite rapidly.
So we're in Christchurch at the moment.
Christchurch, yep. And then there was a lot of ask from the ladies of the recovery sort of community, asking why can't we be part of this sort of.
Wow. Okay.
So after 2 years of Avoda running, we sort of
brought the ladies in and made it a mixed gender group. And so it's just grown from there. Now it's got mothers and fathers and their children, so we've got quite a big children group there now.
Wow.
And so we've got an amazing lady there. She's a teacher, so she comes in on a Friday night and does a kids group, which she's so talented at, like really cool.
Awesome.
And so because there's still that gender group after they've done a kapahaka waiata, and then now they're doing that kapahaka together.
Yeah.
And then they break off and have gender group about what's on top and, how's the week been and sort of let it out. The coolest thing about the kapahaka part is on a Friday night they can just scream, they can yell as loud as they can and doing the haka, and it sort of lets out their whole week's worth of stresses or whatever what was going on.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the gender group, they've sort of had a big let out, and then they're sort of more free to speak and talk about it,
That's cool.
So that's going really well. So then it was funny, while I was working at the bridge, I was praying into, I was praying that, Father, I surrender to you and all this material stuff, it means nothing. I'll go wherever you want me to serve you, lead me to where you want me. And I'd pray this, but then I felt real comfortable in my job and in my salary, and I had 2 jobs, cleaning car parks in the morning and then chaplain bridge work during the day. And so the comfortableness of this income, I was praying this, but on the other end I was like, no, I'm actually quite comfortable where I am. And so I was praying to that. Then I sort of prayed into housing, recovery housing for a voter, and got a call from Vineyard here in Kaikoura saying we'd like to offer you a house for ministerial work.
Wow.
Vineyard Church offered you a house.
Yeah.
And you've been praying for that.
Yeah, praying for housing, I didn't expect it to be in Kaikoura, but but God's great, He answered both of my prayers. He sent me away from my comfort zone of that job.
It's funny, He sort of knows, even when you don't ask. Like, you're praying to just go wherever you want, wherever He's sending you.
Yeah.
And essentially to not be comfortable being comfortable. And saying, all right, send me out of my comfort zone. Not that you were praying for that, but that's what God knew you needed. And answered a prayer that, not necessarily that you prayed, but one that you needed.
Yeah, absolutely. And so to set this house up, I pretty much had to surrender all my belongings to set this house up. So I've given it over. I came to a place with no job, no income, and trusted in God that it would be okay.
Amazing.
And it's going more than okay.
Yeah. Well, when we just arrived, there was a spiritual retreat in the house just up the road where you came from. Do you want to share a little bit about that? What's going on there?
Yeah, so the house that we got gifted through Vineyard, it's been set up as a spiritual retreat, a spiritual respite.
Respite, that's right.
And so it's basically just for the healing of people that come from a broken place or addiction, or and to find it through Christ. The program's very intentional and heavy in spirituality, Bible reading, a bit of community focus and helping, and so it sort of encourages mindfulness. From myself, my own experience in addiction, it's all about yourself. And I think through Christ I've learned a lot about how great you are instead of how great I am, or what I'm good at, or what I've been through. It's about how good and the potential in others and their worth. And the worth just magnifies in Christ, So that really gets magnified in that house, and it's great. I didn't even finish painting it, and it was full. The bedrooms were taken. the guys in it, the one guy is now 4 weeks alcohol free, abstinent from alcohol.
Amazing.
Yeah, and the other guys 2 weeks, just over 2 weeks.
Man.
Yeah.
And you've got plans to expand?
Yes. So putting in a 40-foot container. So 3 rooms, 2 bigger rooms for the house.
Nice.
And 1 centre room with bunks for emergency bedding for, 1-2 nights. For people that really need somewhere just to bunk up.
Yeah.
And then expanding to chalets, like little units where they can move from there to there, and then housing into the community.
Oh, wow. So all of your teachings and everything that you go through with these guys that are struggling with alcohol or drugs or maybe just coming out of prison or whatever it is, and they're sort of coming into society, but they want, like you said, when you're in prison, you heard a voice saying, you're worth more than this. So you're bringing that into this, what you're doing here. Are you using biblical sort of principles in your teachings and sharing Jesus Christ left, right, and centre sort of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. In the spirituality sessions, yep. We do Bible reading, but generally in free time or when we're doing things, I'm a strong believer of they learn by witness, character,
That's
who
good.
you are, how I treat people, how I react to things.
Because that's how you learnt as well on the island. You said, it goes on both ways. You were brought up with these people that were making religion look really weird because they weren't living out in love like religion is supposed to. Yeah. And then you've got the Salvation Army who would be, they call themselves Christians. And I love that. It's relationship rather than religion.
Yeah.
And you can see that they have a key relationship with Christ which outpours onto anybody that they get involved with. And at the time it was you, John, and you saw a change in the way that they witnessed to you and the way that they treated you as a person, probably with love and respect and all that. Yeah.
I think the Spinnyard Church is impactful on this piece of land.
Yeah.
Everyone that comes up here, because we do camps up here, so the Avoda and Christchurch come up, do camps up here. Everyone just feels it. Feels the spiritual sense and feel of this place. The church family here, they're just amazing bunch of people. Amazing bunch of people, just love, just ooze love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
If you pass them on the street, you'll be able to say, that person is following Jesus. You see it.
Yeah, it's good.
So amazing whānau here of Vineyard.
The Bible actually talks about a fragrance.
Oh, yeah.
We have a fragrance.
Yeah. So they're amazing whānau. They've been supporting Avoda in this house all the way through and continue doing it. So we're sort of moving, the Avoda in Christchurch is moving, and sort of moving to Riccarton Baptist.
Okay.
Sort of find a new home there. Just to sort of build on the spiritual side of it and the love and support. But the Salvation Army have been, given us a place to sort of be. But I sort of just have a feel for the place to grow more with God in it. And it's all God-led, all this Avoda, it's not the John show, it's the God show.
Yeah, that's cool. It's
all in His name and His glory. So where it's led is where it will grow in His name, here I am. I'm clean, sober, totally on fire for Jesus, and a completely different person. To be honest, at times I still battle with that narrative of rejection and not belonging. But the flesh part of me, if it's probably like Christmases and when everyone's talking about family and how great it is,
the flesh sort of says, "Oh, where's that?" But my spirit says, "Oh no, you've got the best Father and everyone."
Yeah.
I think coming to Christ, that filled a lot of voids of no purpose, of no belonging. All of a sudden, I was created for a reason and a purpose, and I'm loved by the Father that's consistent and non-stop. So I thrive on that daily, and I love seeing other people come and thrive on God's love, and so we've had quite a few baptisms here in the ocean.
Oh, cool.
After church, when people have decided, this is me, and so we chuck them,
Amazing.
take them for a dip in the ocean.
Yeah.
I sort of did quite a lot of study with the navigators when I was in Christchurch, so a lot of scriptural memorization and stuff like that. So they're really cool to have on board for discipling, helping disciple guys when they go back to Christchurch.
Yeah.
So it's great. We go up to the tower. If you've been to the water tower up there, it looks all over Kaikoura. Great place to pray. Yeah. That's where we pray. And when guys come up or the camps come up, we go up there and do a big huddle up and a big prayer up there.
Yeah.
So,
That's awesome.
We actually came across it was like a little toolbox that was on a walk or close to where we've got our caravan set up, and it's a prayer box. People can open it up and write their prayers in it, and there's a seat right next to it, and it says the encounter seat.
Oh wow!
And it's looking out over the whole bay, and it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, it was raining and horrible weather when we were there this morning, but we opened it up and saw like there's probably like 50 or 60 prayers all stuffed into this little box, and a little piece of paper and a pen and things people can write. But Kaikoura has the Spirit of God here, 100%.
Absolutely.
It just screams the creation of God.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. It's so cool that you're taking them out and you're baptizing them in the ocean. And wow.
I guess I know for any listeners that are unsure of or thinking, when I first put my hand up and shrunk down in embarrassment, God breaks all those chains away, that embarrassment. Now I walk freely in Christ and speak freely about Jesus, and I'm proud to be a son of God. So that stuff gets broken away, and it's not there forever. It's still our flesh strength saying, I'm a survivor and I can do this. It's an independent sort of. But I think within that vulnerability of surrendering was probably my biggest life growth.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for those that struggle or depend on drugs and alcohol and that sort of lifestyle? Maybe they're listening to this podcast now and they're going, maybe I do want to be a Christian, but they don't know how to get that step. They don't know where to go or who to go to, or can they just pray right now?
You can absolutely pray right now. I think that with the independent side of addiction and the survivor sort of mentality, that asking or reaching out for help is a hard thing, and it's really common in men. Men don't reach out for help, especially if they're in a dark space or depression or an addiction.
Yeah.
So praying off the mark, and some people don't even know how that happens. And I guess you can just talk. Just talk as if you're talking to your best friend.
Yeah.
And when you build a relation, it becomes that best friend, your father figure. But I mean, with addiction, it doesn't solve anything. It just prolongs the numbness. So I started at a young age, and at 45 I stopped, and I think the biggest grace I've got is that I can sit here and talk. I know plenty of people from when I was young who were sniffing solvents that aren't as lucky as me.
Yeah.
The amount of
stuff I put in my body and I can still function well.
Yeah.
Man, that's huge grace. Huge that I don't know. I'm astounded. I've walked my journey, and I know how much stuff I've put in my body since a young kid, that I can still sit here and talk and function and sort of have my wits about me is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But addiction is not the answer. The numbness and the God is the answer. For someone that was absolutely against it, I can now honestly say, I found all my peace and calm in God.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Well, thank you, John. Yeah. That's an amazing story, and I'm sure anybody listening is just going, wow, if you, John, can walk through a life pretty much full of tragedy, full of drugs and alcohol and addiction, and then stand now and saying, none of that, I count all of that as garbage, is what the Apostle Paul says and the Bible says. I count everything in the world as garbage, and to follow Christ is everything. Absolutely. And that you've done that, you're living that out, and how God gave you that heart right from the start for other people, to bat for the broken, more or less, and to stand strong when they are weak. And that's the heart of Christ. He stands strong when you are weak, and he's saying, like, this is my heart. I'm imprinting this onto you. So thank you so much for joining us, John. You're an amazing man.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the time to listen.
Yeah. So before we finish, just remember, guys, that, only God can turn a mess into a message, a trial into a triumph, a victim into a victory, and a test into a testimony, and that your story could be the key that unlocks somebody else's prison. We'll see you next time on the Jesus Magnet Podcast.